Hey, happy Sunday, everybody. It is Peter and Sal here with the weekly wrap up for the Strong Healthy Women community. And we're really, really excited to be here. It is a beautiful, sunshiny day after we had lots of storms and hails here yesterday. So, how are you today, Sal?
Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm really, really good, thank you. Yeah, one of the
That's good.
things that I was actually thinking about this morning was the changes that happen in our body as we age. And certainly one of the things that came to mind straight away is our joints. They start to wear out. They're made up of bone, and they've got usually a little capsule around it, and membrane and cartilage, and there's fluid. So they have this beautiful little eggshells, so they're all covered up. And then what happens is, as we age, we're using all those joints all the time, and some of those things just start to wear down. And so what happens is we start to see that in aches and pains in our lives. So the knees might be a bit creepy, as an example. You hear that little creak, creak as you move, or when you go to get down and get back up. And so, or there might be a little clicking noise happening in your hip. So there's different types of noises you might hear, or different little aches that you might start to feel. And so, one of the things that I wanted to really talk about today was the fact that, even though those joints do wear down, it doesn't mean you have to stop exercising. What it means is you can modify the exercise. And so, I was thinking about Sue this morning, how she had tennis elbow, remember?
Yes.
So that was a while back now. And so
Yes.
she had it strapped, she'd been going and having physio for it. And then what happened is we just adapted the exercises that she was doing, and so that she could continue working out because she didn't want to lose her fitness. And then the other thing was that, when we were using weights, she would have lighter weights in one side than the other. So big shout out to you, Sue, because you kept on working out even though you had that injury. Which brings me to Julie. So Julie has got some shoulder issues going on right now. And so she's got some bursitis. And so she's under the physio's care, and the physio's given her a set of instructions. She sent that through to us. And so we've modified those workouts, and, we're just following the guidelines from the physiotherapist so that she can continue to keep her fitness while she's got that injury and continues to heal. So it's a win-win all round, isn't it?
It is. It is. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the great things about our ladies is if they have those injuries and they do seek medical advice, which most of them do,
Mm,
and most of them, not most of them, those ones with the injuries then have the physio aspect added into it. It's wonderful to
mm,
see that they follow the physio advice,
yes.
um, bringing it into their workouts and
Mm-hmm.
continue to work out. Sometimes we can go, oh, I have a sore knee, so I'm just going to stop exercise altogether. I'm not going to go and get medical advice. I'm not going to go and see a physio. I'm just going to stop it because I'm sure that if I keep moving, that will make it worse. And that's not the
Yeah.
case. The case with Sue was she had been seeing a physio and she was taking his advice, bringing it into her workouts and making it work. And, she's healed. She's not had any problems. She's on both, both weights are the same weight, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So she's come through the other end of it, and also like a shout out to Ruth as well too. She'd had those creaky knees for such a long time, and we were talking about different things. She'd been to the physio, and I happened to mention a book, well, two books that I really, really love, which is Sarah Keys, and The Body in Action, and the other book is The Knee Bible. So she actually went out and got both books, but she was reading the Knee Bible, and she just found this section that went, that's me. That's totally me. This is what I need to do. And so she followed it through. She's not having any knee issues now. You know, so which is fantastic. So, you know, we can continue to work out even when we do have those little aches and pains, and that wear and tear that, you know, catches up on us when we are, you know, aging. It's just a natural part of it. I know that I have those creaky noises. Do you have any of those creaky noises, or are you noticing anything, Sal?
The clickies.
You got the clickies happening.
The clickies might happen in your hip when you're doing a certain move, and oh, that's clicking. That's a new sound.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So when you've got wear and tear on the joints, I mean, most certainly the first thing that you need to know is exactly what it is you're dealing with, because if you don't know, then we as trainers can't help as well too. You know, we're only guessing, and we don't want to guess. We won't guess. It's as simple as that. We're not going to guess. And so what we want you to do is always seek that medical advice, and always go to, you know, your physiotherapist or whoever's been recommended, so that they can give you the right healing process, so that we follow their guidelines then. And so it works both ways. It's just fantastic. And so the other thing that can happen is, like, as I said, we modify that workout then. And so for someone who's thinking, you know, because we love a little bit of a squat jump. I'm a big fan of squat jumps. Yeah. So you might be thinking, big fan of squat jumps. So we might be thinking, well, hang on a minute, you know, with sore knees, I can't do squat jumps, but you can do a sit to stand off your chair. And then as you come up into that stand, you bring your hands up over your head. So that's going to still have that same impact. You're still going to get that endurance side of the workout. You're still going to get your cardiovascular training happening as well too. So it's just fantastic. Look, the same thing happens with our muscles and our bones. You know, there's things that happen to them as we age as well too. So, for example, the muscles become that little bit more rigid. And so what helps us build that muscle is to make sure that we've got that strength training going on. And then the same thing with the bones, you know, they're affected by our hormones, the calcium, and inactivity if we're not actually working out. And so what helps build bones is weights. And of course, we know you're a big fan of weights. I love weights too.
Yep,
but you're a triple lover of weights.
I am. I love the weights. But I just want to go back to sorry, I got sirens tearing down my street. Very rare down
You do
here.
have.
I do. I just wanted to go back to with your joints and your ligaments and your tendons.
Yeah.
If you have those aches and pains in your knees or your ankles or hips, doesn't matter where it is, and you have those aches and pains, and you opt for the easier way out of not doing anything, you're going to have more problems, because, as you said, you know, you're not moving. Everything's going to seize up. Everything is going to shrink, because we know that strength training is about lengthening and strengthening our muscles. And that goes for our ligaments and tendons as well. And I remember when I did my calf muscle, when I was hit in my calf muscle, and I was on crutches for 5 weeks, and it was so painful just to put my foot down. And the physio said to me, if you don't start doing something for it, you're not going to be able to move your foot, because everything's just going to shrink.
That's right. Yeah.
So even with that pain or those aches and pains or niggles, just keep moving, because it's going to keep them flexible and mobile as well.
Yeah, totally. I also today was thinking about habits. That's a big topic in itself, but I did want to give a shout out to our insiders, because since September, they started doing the 28-day fueled up transformation, and then we've continued on, and they're checking in every week, they're staying accountable. And so on Friday evening in our check-in and connect session, I said to them, I want you to think about what habit has now become something that's that little bit more automated for you. So what is it? And I love that Maria said that she drinks water first thing in the morning. So she no longer has a problem with drinking enough water during the course of the day. And that was just a simple little technique that she would have learned a long time ago with us. But it's something that she has continued to use and refine and totally mastered, because now it's just on autopilot for her. And so how we've approached that was, and it's something that I personally do. So we are on tank water, and we don't have a lot of water out here, but it has finally rained, so we do have some water now. So I do buy bottled water. So these are 500 ml bottles, and I have 2 of these on my bedside table. So what happens is when I first wake up, I drink 1 bottle of this. And then as I'm getting out of bed, I then drink the second bottle of it. So I've had 1 litre of water. And you'd be really surprised if you're someone who hangs out for a coffee first thing in the morning, if you can actually swap that coffee over for water, you're going to find that that water is going to give you the energy once you get over that withdrawal process of not having the coffee. And what it's also going to do is it's going to help your cells restore and generate, because it's a perfect time for your body to do some healing. So it heals most of a nighttime. The last thing we want to do is drink lots of water of a nighttime, because that's going to keep us up. So mornings is the second best time to drink lots of water. And so I love, love, love that she's drinking water like that. But Justine said the same thing. She's now in the habit of drinking water. Can you remember who else? There was quite a number of them who said water was the thing for them.
I know Pat was water.
Yeah.
Who else was?
Justine. Oh, Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just having a look on the screen now. Yeah. So Tanya. Yeah. So they all were drinking more water. I love also what Tanya said as well too. So shout out Tanya. She said it's not so much about what she is now doing, it's about what she's no longer doing. She's no longer snacking. Yes. So the snacks have gone out of her day. And it was interesting because Justine said exactly the same thing as well too. So she's no longer snacking. So, for each and every one of us, creating this new habit in our life is going to be on a different time frame. So, for some of us, we'll adapt to that new habit quite quickly. And for others, it will take a lot longer. But what we want to do is get to the stage where it does become part of our routine, that it is on autopilot. But we also don't want it to be totally on autopilot, because if we totally put it on autopilot and we don't engage in it, that's when we can start to blur the lines a little bit as well too. So we want it to be easy. That's right. We want it to be easy, but we want it to be engaged. One of the habits that I personally have is the scales, the measuring spoons, and the measuring cups. They stay out on my bench, because what I found for myself personally was that I would think that I was putting in a half a cup of something or a tablespoon of something, but we all know that our eyes can lie to us. And so those things were getting bigger and bigger. Just having those measuring means available to me just reminds me to do it.
Yes.
So you want to
I
make
love,
it easy.
yes, and not start
Mm.
tweaking things, as you said, because you know, the other thing too is our measures might become skewed, but the ingredients can too in a healthy recipe when you're
Mm.
cooking. Oh, I'll just add a
Oh,
little bit of
totally.
this in. I'll just add, you know, 4 weeks down the track, we think we're still making the exact same recipe that we made, you know, on day one, say in the 28-day Fueled Up, but, you know, we've
Mm.
tweaked it a little bit. And with the
Yeah.
balance in macros and micros, that can have a big effect on your results.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I know that Sharon couldn't make it to our session on the Friday night, but she chimed in later on, and she said, you know, the habit that she has now created is the habit of taking care of herself. And I've asked her the question, okay, so explain to me, like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? So, you know, how are you actually doing that? So, you know, is it something, so for me, self-care is an automatic process. It is a habit that I already have. And so it means that when I first wake up, I take a deep breath, I give my body a little wiggle to get the fluid moving, and then I just, you know, find something to be thankful for. And then I then move into my routine of movement. And that movement may be very different from day to day, depending on what each day has in store. But that's my way of self care because I make that commitment of movement and it's part of that daily routine.
The wonderful thing with
So,
Sharon was that, you know, she did say too that because she has made her self-care part of her routine, it was wonderful to read that she also said that her family have now adjusted
yes,
what they do to support what she's doing, which I think is
yes,
fabulous. Yeah.
yeah. Mm. Yeah, that reminds me. I just got the draft of the chapter that I'm writing in a book, and it was one of the things that I discussed with my ex-husband when he said, you know, why do you go out and walk when you get home from work? So I was in a stressful job at that point. Why don't you just cook dinner? And so I said, okay, well, I'll talk to you about that when we get back. And so we actually talked about it as a family. So it was at the dinner table. And so there were so many positives that came out of it. So you'll need to get the book to actually find out what it is. So, but there were a lot of positives out of it. And one of those positives was that my sons got to see that it's okay to put yourself first. And in particular, it gives them the insight that women are important as well too, because sometimes as men, we think that what we're doing is more important than what the woman is doing as well. So not
Yes.
all, but sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So is there a routine, Sal, that you know you've adopted so that you found that has changed during the from this Fueled Up process through, or anything that you've totally adapted over the years that's working well for you?
Breakfast. It was a
Breakfast.
breakfast.
Oh yeah, breakfast. Hmm.
Justine and I, yes. You know, we were breakfast skippers.
Yeah.
And you would think that was okay, but you know, having breakfast now, and you get into these habits, you know.
Yeah.
I think probably the last 18 months I was in, you know, and especially the last 6 months, you know, because you're home. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, I'll have breakfast later. I'll have breakfast later. So I
Yeah.
got into that habit of skipping breakfast, did the 28
Mm.
days Fueled Up, and then got back into that habit of having breakfast. And then
Yeah.
this past week, we have done the 7-day fresh start. And so that's intermittent fasting. So breakfast for me
Yeah.
wasn't till 10:30, And I know on Friday night, Justine and I were laughing because we were starving at, 10:30 in the morning,
Yeah,
because we're so used to having that
yeah,
breakfast 2, 3 hours earlier. So
mm,
breakfast has been my habit that
yeah,
I've gotten into.
yeah, fantastic. And I know that we need to give some shout outs to some of those ladies who normally would maybe work out in the morning or the afternoon, and sometimes their schedule doesn't work that way. So do you want to tell us a little bit about those ladies and what they've done?
So there's 4 ladies in particular, and I want to shout out to Alison and Devonish. Ruth is one of them, and Jill Hobbs, and Maria. So there's 5, and Maria.
Yep,
Now, you know, sometimes our alarm doesn't go off. Sometimes our alarm does go off and we flick the switch.
yep,
Sometimes mornings just don't permit it. But these
hmm
ladies know that their health and fitness is their priority and is important. So if they skip a morning session, Alison, Anne, and Ruth are morning ladies, and Maria, the 4 of those, regular morning fit flexes,
yep,
and then Jill is a regular PM fit flexer. And if they don't
mm,
get into the studio, they will always come to either a morning session if Jill has something in
yep,
the afternoon, or the other 4 ladies will come to an afternoon session if they've missed the morning session. I love that because
yeah,
it speaks volumes on their priority of their health and fitness. So good work,
mm,
ladies. Love it.
yeah, champion work. The wonderful thing about that is that they know not only how much physically they need it, but how much mentally and emotionally it's good for them as well too. So, and Maria was one of the ones who was talking on Friday evening how because she came to Australia from overseas, made this move when she was, an adult with her husband and her small children. So English is not her first language. And so when she was in an environment, she would just be quiet and not say a word, just not say a word. And to see that difference in Maria, I've known her for 15, 16 years now, from that person who was very quiet. And she said what she found was that the other ladies didn't care that her English was very PC, that they just smiled at her and they listened intently, and they, even if they couldn't work it out, they would still include her in that conversation. And that gave her the confidence to go, well, you know what, I'm just going to keep talking. And, she's gone from being this total introvert to this extrovert who just beams and radiates light all over the place because she has some marvelous stories to tell. And I mean, one just springs to mind, and I will very quickly tell you about it, is that her and her, I think it was her sister or some friend that she had made, they had to go somewhere and they caught the train and they got there, but then it got very, very late and they only had so much money and they needed to get home and there were no trains running. And so they got in the cab and they're going, no, 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 no. And she, they're pulling out their money because they don't have enough. And the cab driver's going, no, get in, get in. And this cab driver actually took them home. He wasn't concerned about the money. He took them home. And what he also did was they ended up getting a job for that cab company
That's wonderful.
because, yeah, because they actually did turn up, to give them the money the following day. So it was just, it was just a marvelous story how things actually unfold. Yeah,
I
lots of
loved that she on Friday night when she was talking about when she first came over here. And, you know, she said, I learned to speak English at Strong Healthy Women.
Yeah.
Now, how is that for a community? As you said
Yeah.
before, the women didn't care that her English was choppy or she stumbled over words or anything. And as you said, now it's just, you know, and that helped her in her daily life. So it's, you know, we're not just about the
Fitness.
physical side of it. It's about confidence, and she was able to overcome that fear because once she walked through our door, she didn't have that fear of what
No.
are people going to say? Are they going to judge me? There was none of that, and so she was able to then walk back out the doors and go out and you know, grab her
Yeah.
life in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is wonderful. Totally wonderful.
Yes.
So interesting discussion today, Sal. So we've gone from
Yes.
talking about wear and tear on the body, wear and tear on the body, to a little bit about habits, to a little bit about building confidence and allowing your sparkle and shine to come out. And so shout out to all those ladies that we mentioned today. There were lots of them today, you know, and they're just a handful of the ladies and the stories that we see on a daily basis at Strong Healthy Women. And even in our wider community, Sal, I do want to finish just giving a shout out to the post that I put up during the week, which is, what's your post-workout meal or snack? And there's been heaps of ladies, you know, telling us what they do. Now, what I've discovered is the protein shake is an absolute clear winner in there. Protein shake is my go-to. Although, you know, if I finished a workout and it's lunchtime, then I'm just going to make sure that I've got protein and some good carbohydrates in that meal that I'm about to eat as well too. Do you have a go-to when it comes to post-workouts?
My go-to is shake as well, a protein shake.
Yeah. So it
It's just quick
totally
and
seems to
easy,
be a
and
clear window.
yeah, it's quick, easy. You're not having to really think about it,
No.
which is wonderful. And there's barely
Yeah.
any prep.
Yeah, depends what you put in it. Some of the ladies were sharing exactly what they put into it. So some of them are really going to a lot of, you know, a lot of work there. Well, there's not a lot of work. They're just throwing in a few, you know, berries and greens and whatnot. So, yeah, but it really is wonderful when you see, you know, the community also happening and building there, because I saw, you know, someone saying, well, you know, when this is what I have, but I'm so hungry afterwards. And then someone piped in and said, oh, you know, change this and do that. And so it's wonderful when you see those types of things happening in our, not only our, you know, our small community, but also our wider community as well too, which is great.
Yes.
So thanks for joining me today, Sal.
Thanks for having me, as always. Thank you for joining us, ladies.
Yes, absolutely. Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you get out there and enjoy a little bit of movement, and that you get to have a little bit of downtime as well too, and that you take care of yourself. And we will be back tomorrow, and we're talking about finishing the year strong. We have 2 months left. I know that everybody has thought that 2020 has been a bit of a crazy year, and it has been one of those crazy years, and some of us adapted really quickly, and others have, you know, are still waiting for things to go back to the way they were. And that's the wonderful thing about life. It is always ever changing, and we as humans get to actually change with it. So we will be back talking about finishing it strong. So I would love to know who is with us, who is going to be finishing the year strong and making a commitment to those last 2 months in the year. So over and out for us. Thanks, Sal, for joining me. Thanks, ladies, for joining us.
Everybody.
And we
Have a
shall
great
see you all
Sunday.
soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.